Well, good evening, beautiful people, and welcome to another segment of Success in Motion, where we discuss topics that will inspire, empower, and promote to catapult you to the next level in your life. I thank you all for taking out the time to join our conference call today, whether you joined by audio or video. And then also for those of you that will be listening at a later time, I thank you, because you truly could have chosen to be anywhere else or be doing anything else, but you have decided to take out your time to join us this evening. So again, I say thank you. I was just sharing how our weather here in Michigan is like very pleasant. It's been very, very warm. But I did have some concerns about our Memorial weekend, because there were like a plethora of people that were like grouped together at like beaches. And I'm not afraid, just wanting to be careful, and make sure that the invisible enemy that it has been, destroying lives and families and things of that nature is, I would say, gone, you know. But I, like everybody else, I did get out there and, I'm like, oh, because when it's sunshiny, everybody's excited. They're like, hey, we can get out and start doing some things and, go and meet with some people. And, of course, with the social distancing, we've not been able to meet with family and friends in person. So, of course, with the groups of 10 or less, that was very exciting. But to see the masses of people just all congregated together without masks drew a little concern for me. But I do pray that all is well. And on another note, on an upbeat and positive note, I am truly excited about each and every one of you. This is such an amazing time for all of us. I'd like to say that, there are situations where, you have an opportunity to just move forward and to continue to go, in on the path and the journey. And I always like to say the voyage. I know that, some people attribute voyages as being like on a ship or something like that. But if anybody's ever watched like Star Trek, they're on a voyage through space and time, Anyway, so I prefer using that word, but this is a very exciting time for each and every one of us. And, as I was thinking of our next topic, because I know we're talking about how to become an effective leader, and we're still staying in that vein, but just learning more about what leadership is and who we are, okay? So our topic for today is finding your voice in the midst of all the noise, all the chaos, the storms, the trials, the tribulations, and even if not that, just finding your voice in the midst of everyone else's voice. There are so many voices that are out in the atmosphere. There are so many sounds. There are different frequencies that a lot of people are not aware of, that if you're really tuned in, you're sensitive, like spiritually, you can actually hear different frequencies that are transmitted in the atmosphere. And that's just what it is. Like, I hear them all the time. I can hear it when I speak to certain people on the phone. I know when the frequency that I am on, I notice when there's a shift, and I'm always trying to figure out, okay, whose frequency is this, and how did it transfer here and all that stuff. Anyway, but just finding your personal voice in the midst of it all. So as humans, we have been created with a mouth, we have a tongue, we have vocal cords, we have a diaphragm, we have lungs, we have other necessary organs that aid us in the ability to make sound. And how can I forget, one of the most important things also is that we have our brain, okay? We have our mind, we have our thoughts and things. And as I mentioned, along with these other necessary parts of our body, it allows us the ability to create, to invent, to speak, to write, to sing, whatever it is, to make sound, you know. And there may have been a time in, you know, each and every one of our lives when we wanted to be expressive with our voice, but we were told that, you know, you have to be quiet. You know, you just need to be quiet. You just need to shut up. Nobody wants to hear what you have to say. Whatever it is that you have to say is not important, and we just don't want to hear it at this time. So just shh. Or you've just simply been overlooked or ignored. You know, it's happened to me, you know, in my adult life. And of course, when you're a child, you know, you really can't say too much because, you know, when your parents tell you to hush, you got to hush, you know. But when you become of age, you know, we're taught when we're younger, we're taught how to think. You know, we're taught that what we're to become when we become adults, and we know that there's guidance that's there, and the people who teach us things, they mean well, especially our parents, they mean well, you know, but they may not necessarily see who we are truly to become. And when we begin to express ourselves, it may seem to be something that kind of bucks up against something, you know, like you can't move forward because you're always getting pushed back, or you can't move forward because you're being, you know, sat down, or whatever the case may be. But, you know, at some point it's like, I gotta let this out. I gotta let this out. So with our minds, we have so many transmitters and receptors, okay? And we receive a lot of information. We receive things from the nerves in our body, you know, from our heart, from our skin, from our just being in existence, you know. So there comes a moment in time in which we begin to experience different feelings and emotions, you know. We may receive a thought and it's just like, well, I know that, you know, the teacher said that the sky is always blue, but yet at nighttime when the sun is setting, I see some orange. I see what appears to maybe a little purple. I may even see a little yellow, you know, because the sun is setting, you know. But yet that teacher or that person has told you that the sky is always blue, okay? And that is not the case. So we begin to think. But again, if you challenge someone with a different perspective, or the perspective in which you see something, because it's not the way they see it or the way that they believe it, again, they can shut you down. And, you know, when that happens to some people, it can cause them to become quiet. It can cause them to, you know, get to a point where, okay, well, nobody's going to listen to me anyway. You know, whenever I believe that what I'm saying is true, and it very well may be true, you know, I always get told, nope, nobody wants to hear that. Just shut up, you know, go on about your business. And, you know, but, you know, you get this buildup on the inside of you. And at some point, it's like, oh my gosh, like I just have to get this out. So I'll share with you all just briefly. So I am in a transition period. You know, like my youngest daughter has graduated from high school. I have 3 daughters. My youngest one has graduated, and I am free. Oh my gosh! You know, and I'm so excited. And the things that help to keep me together, you know, for parenting mode, I don't have to necessarily, I can be more free, if you will. And not to just go wild and crazy, I'm not saying that, but now I'm not necessarily censored and filtered, you know. again, not that I'm going to say anything all crazy or anything like that, but what I'm saying is that I'm not always having to be just this one way. Now I can express myself in ways that I've not been able to express myself before because of whether it was fear, being told that, no, you can't do that. No, that's not right. You have to quench this and all of that. But now it's like, again, as I always speak, beyond the sky is the limit to what I can have and do now. Okay. So what I've been pondering on is when we finally get to that point, when we're able to find our voice in the midst of all that we've been taught and all that we've heard, there are some things that we have to do. And once we do those things, then it's like, oh my gosh, the song, ain't no stopping us now, we're on the move, and it's like, there is no boundaries, there's no limits, there's none of that. It's like, yes. So, what I wanted to ask before I get into that is, if anyone would like to share, you can either raise your hand or unmute your line, but just briefly, just share with us a moment where you have been trying to find your voice in the midst of the noise, and what, if you don't mind sharing, because, a lot of times, we're dealing with things that were, deeply rooted on the inside, and so we got to get those things out so this way we can be free, and you just never know who's listening, who is actually experiencing that same thing at that moment, but how, when you realized that was happening, how did you overcome that to where you were confident in knowing that what you had to say had meaning and needed to be heard? Would anybody like to share?
I guess I can share. How are you today, Nicole?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of such a wonderful show.
Absolutely.
And to answer your question, I am a leader in many different capacities. The best leaders are the most amazing followers. And they follow those that came before them, yet has new thought, new mindset for the times that they are presently leading in. And there were leaders before me who declared that I wasn't ready to be trained to be in positions that I sit in today. And because they were not willing to train me, they missed the opportunity to say, that right there, I saw that leadership long before it became. I'm thankful that I took him in and worked with him. They can't say that now. What they can say is, that's my successor. He's doing a great job. And anything other than that, if they have a criticism, it's because it's things that they were not willing to do. They were not willing to be open to the challenge. And so for me, the things that I experienced and dealt with as far as the sit down, shut up, pushback, was just simply, I didn't look like the ducks of the flock that were flying around. They didn't realize there was an eagle in the midst who cared for all flying creatures and just came down to be amongst them. Not that I wasn't just as good. I was actually probably better even when I wasn't ready than they were. And the leadership and the direction of things in the various organizations now are truly being seen and noticed. And it is much appreciated by all those who have had the opportunity to share with me the differences that they see and how much they appreciate the change. So that is my story on the things that have been different.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just want to touch on that a little bit also, because I know that I've mentioned before that, my tagline for Strategic Image Consulting is make your first impression a lasting impression. And I know that, I am about presentation you know. But I also understand, like right now, we are all on the same playing field, you know, like women, you know, who don't know how to do their hair, they can't go get their hair done, they can't get their nails done, men can't go to the barber shops, you know, and things of that nature. But because of that, does that mean that what a person has on the inside of them is not important? It does not. Because whether you're able to look the part or not, it's what's on the inside of you, you know? And I believe that a lot of people get overlooked, like you said, you know, because people don't necessarily look the part, you know. They don't look necessarily well polished, you know. They wear jeans and a t-shirt and, you know, gym shoes, so they couldn't possibly be, you know, the head of a CEO. I mean, excuse me, the CEO or head of an organization or company, you know. She can't possibly, you know, own her own business or whatnot. And in particular, I know this is something, you know, when women go to the hair shop or the nail salon, and the person who's doing their hair may look a hot mess, you know, but they've been working. They've been working on other people's hair, you know, and you know, at the nail salon, their nails doesn't look great because they're using acetone, they're using all these different products and everything, but they're very good at what they do. That's why you're there, you know. So we have to keep in mind that, you know, just because a person does not look like we look, you know, they don't necessarily have that, you know, that polished look, does not mean that they're not qualified. I see a hand raised. Yes, yes. Thomas, go ahead. You might have to, let me see. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Coach said, and also what you're saying said also is that everybody have a way to contribute to any kind of conversation and any kind of thought. Um, you need to learn how to look beyond, like you said, the image of an individual, and find out what's actually being said. When I was ever since I was a kid, I was told that even a drunk tells the truth and have very good meaning. So don't dismiss a person because of what kind of status of life they have, either modest or on the upper echelon of society. Because the one that gives you the most in-depth insight, I always like to see the person who's in a modest way, because with that modest person, to me, doesn't have to look like they're not image to portray, but to actually give you what the truth of what they're saying. So I tell, you know, anybody from a baby, I say, let the baby speak, you know, because the baby has a very simplistic type of view in which that's not cluttered by any judgment or life experience, but give you a plain truth. So I get, so I let my, you know, I have a 6-year-old, and I let my 6-year-old just tell me exactly what her feelings are and her perspective of things, and that brings so much insight in which that to the purest level of what's important, and everything else doesn't matter. Although she may complain that, you know, her Barbie dolls doesn't have the shoes or clothes that we all want, and make that a big deal. But I understand the genuine concern of everything that she has. That I said, wow, that's the meat of everything. And so once we start to declutter all of that and find out exactly what the heart of it is, then we'll be very blessed in what we have. And I think that I tell people all the time that a person try to impress you with, you know, their scholarly accolades and everything like that. I immediately, in which I have a you know, I may have to help myself out with this, but I immediately kind of like shut down when a person started giving me their resume, as in, you know, tell me all this is just to puff themselves up and try to give me all information. I say, okay, well, this person is trying to sell me something instead of just telling me what's going on. So that's my opinion, in which that I believe that everyone has something to say without any kind of ulterior motive that may happen. So that's my experience.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, that's very, very important. And I believe that a lot of people need to pay attention to that, because even as you mentioned, a drunk person, you know, they're in that state of mind, but yet they are going to tell you the truth, and um, as long as you're getting the information that you need in order to successfully accomplish your goals or the mission and vision of whatever it is, whether it's in your life or career or business, leading a team or whatever the case may be, as long as you're getting the information that you need, you should never discredit it, especially when it's right. Um, so another thing, when we're in those situations, is what I found is to be assertive. You know, you're not being aggressive, you're not being, overbearing or anything, but you have to be assertive. And I know that for myself, when I finally speak up and speak out, then a lot of people get upset. They say, oh, Nicole's having a bad day, and, maybe she's not understanding. Oh, she'll be, no, not having a bad day, but I am taking a stand on what it is that I'm sharing with you, and I want you to know that I am firm about it, not going to be, all crazy and all that stuff, but just letting you know. Another thing is being confident. Not being double-minded, because we know, the Bible says that a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways, so you have to make a decision and stick to it. If you're going to speak, speak, and when you're speaking, sometimes we can stop and be like, because we're thinking about someone's feelings, their emotions, and things of that nature. But when you think about it, and I'm not saying in a negative way, but how often when we're speaking to people, do people consider you, and how you may feel or whatnot, they just come on out and say it, and they just expect you to just deal with it. That's just what it is, and just keep on moving, so, when you're, looking for a way to speak what's on your heart, then that's something that we need to do. Also, when we speak, and this goes in line with, not being double-minded, but being confident also with what you're saying. So instead of saying, well, maybe, just say, yeah, I strongly believe, or, I know this to be true. I know this is right, because at that moment, you become the subject matter expert. When I'm training the youth in public speaking, for me, I tell their parents, this is an outlet. It's a program, and it's an outlet for the children, because we as parents, we censor them, we filter them, we tell them you can't say this, you can't say that, you can't whatever, you just cannot, just no, giving them instruction and guidelines of, yes, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, what's respectful and what's not. But at the same time, this is your platform to be able to express yourself so that you can get out what's here and what's in your heart, So being able to find your voice in the midst of all this, you can't do this, you can't do that, and all that's going on. No, I want you to articulate yourself, and we have to learn how to articulate our thoughts in a way that's going to come across so that people can understand, And Thomas, you mentioned, a child and them speaking in the simplest form, and, a lot of times we need to do the same thing. There may be some people and they just overtalk you, they're just always using those encyclopedic words, or the jargon that doctors speak, and, the scientists and meteorologists and all that stuff. And it's just like, hey, I'm a person, human, just like you are, and I understand all those words, but yet just bring it down. You don't have to be all up there all the time. It doesn't take all that. So I know, Coach, you mentioned how, being in leadership, and being able to find your voice in the midst of all of that. But when you are, heading your meetings and things of that nature, when you have people who may not agree with the direction in which you're needing the organization or the team to go in, and again, you have that, they're bucking up against you, you have that wall, that barrier there. How do you overcome that barrier so this way you're still able to be heard and still be able to accomplish what you need to accomplish for the greater good of your entire organization?
Prayerfully. First thing is always, for me, is to be prayerful. In my flesh, there's multiple reactions to various things. But I have to remember I represent more than just myself at every moment of my day. I coach. I represent hundreds of young minds. I lead an adult organization in the union. I represent hundreds of adult minds with a wide array of information, background, and knowledge. The leadership position is really important to understand. It is a servitude position. You have information and knowledge on how to get to a particular destination that a lot of times people don't realize they really need to get to. And it starts within them. It starts in being humble. It starts with showing people how to open themselves up. And a lot of times I have to have one-on-one conversation with people who may feel uneasy about whatever conversation I'm bringing to them. But it's a necessary conversation. And it's a conversation out of love, not out of spite. It's a conversation out of respect, not hate. And it's a place where I try to offer safety. It's one-on-one and not in front of peers, because it's not about embarrassing you, but it's for you to realize that you yourself don't want to open up to the needed change. And some people, unfortunately, far too many, are too stubborn to find themselves in a successful position or a more successful position than what they are. They're like, oh, I'm this way, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is where I'm at, and this is why I'm there. That's great. I applaud that. My struggle is trying to get you to see that you're even greater, and this is how you get there. And that's what leadership really is showing your team, showing the people around you, showing the people that follow you, showing the voices that even try to sit you down or quiet you, that they are better when everyone else around them is better. And when you allow those voices to be better and you show them how to be better, all of a sudden the leadership starts to respect you before they've given you the position. And that is really what I look for in the meetings when there are people that I'm bucking up against, or rather bucking up against the direction, because I can't take it personal. I have to take it and show them, this isn't what I want. This is what we collectively wanted and how to get there. Now, I understand that Jefferson Avenue travels north and south here, but what you don't realize is at this point it's traveling northeast and southwest. So I need you to turn your perspective just slightly to stay on the road. And that's what a lot of people don't do, is they are steadfast on that north and south, or that solid east and west, and they miss the variations. And so that is what I do to help to make change and bring change to the organizations around me, is get them to see for themselves who they are, what they are, and hopefully why they are.
That's good. Thank you so much. Yes, understanding that there are different perspectives. And, that was a very good analogy that you used in regards to the northeast, south, and west. And yes, you have your northeast, your southwest, and things of that nature, because a lot of times, like you said, it's just that straight focus, you can't deviate, but that's not the only direction, or that's not the direction. So that was very, very good analogy. Thank you for sharing that. Thomas, I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind, with the line of work that you are in, you're in an industry that is, you're dealing with people all the time, and you are definitely the subject matter expert in your field, So when you are, whether it's networking with other people or you're dealing with your clients, and they may not be able to, they're not listening, but that the information that you're giving them is correct, and you're confident in knowing that it's going to get them their desired result. How do you handle that?
Well, I always learn how to meet a person where they are. The best way to overcome anybody's prejudices or misinformation is give them additional information, but let them figure it out as how you lead them to. Sometimes people just don't like to be told what to do, so you set little carrots in the road in which that the person can pick up on those hints and then discover what you was telling them for themselves. So it'll be more of a eureka moment for them. There's different preconceived ideas that we just need to let a person express, and it's a technique in which that I always use, that I learned, that is called Phil found, and here what I found out. It's a method. It's basically just saying that let a person tell you what their information is, then you present them with, then you understand what they're saying. You repeat it back to them, and then you say, hey, I know how you feel, because I felt the same way, but this is what I found out. And that's the best way to overcome any type of being offensive to a person. Because if you go to a person and they say, well, this is the matter and that's it, and I said, you know what, I understand what you're saying because I felt that way, but guess what I done? I found out that this person actually brought this to me, and this is what they said, really? I said, yeah, I agree 100% with you, but this is the new information I found out. Instead of being combative, from reading books such as Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, you don't ever go head to head with a person, like Coach was saying, in front of a lot of people, because now they have an ego that you have to go against, or to try to fight off. So you basically just let the person tell you, even vent to you, and then what I do, I actually go right back with that same tone. It's a technique called mirror, match, and then lead. So if a person's yelling at me, I let them have that tone, but I don't ever say, just let's all calm down, because the person at that point don't want to calm down, and then get more irate if you try to tell them to calm down. So you go right back at them in that same tone, so you get their attention, and now that you just did it subconsciously, you just became on their same wavelength. Now they're communicating with you. You do that for a while, and then you start to lead that person and say, okay, now we're yelling at each other. Now, hey, let's calm this stuff down and let's talk like normal. Say, okay, I can respect you like that, and that normally works most of the time, and by able to now calm each other, you guys are on the same wavelength. You can't be at a person that's up like this and you down here, and then you're saying, well, you need to meet me at my level. No, actually, you meet them at their level. Somebody ready to go ahead and go right at you, you go right back at them, and then until the point that you guys are doing, then you can move a little subtly and then calm themselves down. And so that's how I get my information across. That's how I'm able to relate to a person. I don't come in and try to judge a person just because the way that they're expressing themselves or whatnot. And I'm able to immediately have open up a rapport with a person immediately. And then in my head, because I'm a very shy individual by nature, but a lot of people don't think I am, but but what is that the way how I meet people is that I actually have a conversation in my head that I'm already having with them anyway. So when it's time for me to actually talk with them, it's like we already connected because subconsciously I already did that, and and from that it I'm pretty much connect with a lot of people of that way. So that's how I'll communicate myself and try to go against somebody's trying to have point of views that that's how I'll be able to relate to people.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
If I could, Nicole, just to piggyback on Mr. Hall,
Okay.
everything that he just said, as I listened to it, I realize it's internal. And I totally agree with everything he just said. And it made me realize that leadership is not so much the internal, but it's the vision to see the inside of the person that you're having communication with. It's not the dress, it's not the outfit, it's not the attack of their confidence or knowledge, but the confidence in your knowledge, your understanding. If I sat there and you and I were walking down the street and I said, Nicole, watch out, real calmly, and you like, do you stop at that point, or do you keep walking and look for the direction that I'm pointing or looking? The thing of it is if I sit there and say, Nicole, watch out, and then 2 seconds later a vehicle jumps up on the curb, you're like, oh, you scared me, thank you. But then in the same aspect, you're walking down the street and you see something that doesn't quite look right, and you say, hey, just slide over to your right a little. If you don't understand the person that you're talking to, that quiet, still voice that Mr. Hall was speaking of, or that mirroring, they won't understand it. The calming was because what was about to happen was very frightening. And it is enough excitement in and of itself. For me to scare you to then be scared again back to back is in and of itself a way of finding yourself falling out of leadership or falling out of your voice. And you have to know what it is that you're shooting for. And as you are speaking, the clarity of your speech says more than enough. The afflection of your speech says everything else you needed to say. So, Nicole, hey, watch out. Okay, that's urgent. I still didn't exactly yell, but it was firm. It was a firm tone, but that's what it was because it was an urgent situation. But hey, Nicole, will you just watch out? Hopefully you got that much time to think about what's being said to you to react. When you are leading people in value of time, you oftentimes try to be affirmative and clear in what's being said so that you're not wasting your time, their time, or anybody else's time. Because most of the time, the projects that you're working on or the things that you're working on involves more than you and one other person in the group. So, Mr. Hall, thank you so very much for all of what you said. That was very informative, and I appreciate it.
Yes, very good. So, kind of switching gears, but yet still staying on the same vein of, finding your voice in the midst of noise. So, with dealing with social media, everyone is in their profession, and, there's so many people right now who they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to be acknowledged. And again, it's because of the, the current pandemic that we have experienced. But yet there's so many people, and it seems like so many people are doing so many great and amazing things. But yet, it's like, okay, how can I get my footing in, with everybody doing everything, with the professions that the both of you are in, how do you how do you deal with that, first of all? Because some people would be like, oh, well, there's, so many people, I don't see how I'll be able to fit in. And, we don't necessarily want to fit in, you just kind of want to get your place. And, if it's reaching out to some people so that you can gain new clients, or so that you can network some to find out, different leaders who are in certain industries that you're interested in. How is it that you would be able to have your voice heard in the midst of, the virtual reality that we're in right now? You both don't have to speak at one time. Looks like Coach is calling you out, Mr. Hull.
So go ahead. I'm trying to internalize what you were saying. Basically, just what was your you just want to find out how do you make your voice known in a bunch of noise, or?
Well, so a lot of people, because of the current pandemic that we're in, a lot of people now have to do everything on social media. We can't meet face to face, and so they're just putting content out there, just hoping that they can get new clients, get their selves heard, their selves seen, and things of that nature. But in the profession that you're in, is that something that you feel like you have to do, because of, maybe coming out of this not necessarily having the same clients, or not being able to keep the clients that you have right now, because as people are, doing virtual conferences and things of that nature, more people are visually seeing what the world is doing as opposed to not. Because of course, before all of this happened, you go to networking events and things and you meet people, you're meeting potential clients that way. But now the internet is flooded with people, vying for the same clientele that each and every one of us, is vying for in our professions. So with that, what's your strategy so that you can still meet the potential clients, and then gain the clients that you need to keep going, during this time?
Right. So you had to be the calm in the storm, pretty much. A lot of stuff that's been out there that just, they try to dazzle you with either fear or trying to have you motivate in some kind of way that benefits the person who's trying to sell. You need to just be, say, hey, keep calm. It's not all what it seems to be. You have time. Okay, let's make a rash rash decision, and think about and what you're going to do, and by doing that, you kind of set your tone from a different way of people just blasting everything at you, and say, hey, I know it's about sell, but you can soft sell it by just giving a person information and even telling them to think about what you said. So it would be no kind of, so and then back in their mind is no pressure to have. There was someone that I was listening to, and he's a car salesman. And what he said was that you bring people in or tell people about a certain product or car, and then tell the people, hey, you don't have to buy today. You don't have to buy today. Go home, have some pillow talk with your wife, and then you come back and see me. Okay? And what that does, it relaxes the mind. And then they said, well, and what was discovered for him was that people said, well, why can't I buy now? I want to buy right now. So in a way, you're giving them something that's a fresh look, and not having that pressure. It's like when you walk into, let's say, a clothing store or even a furniture, like Art Van back in, or Gardner White or whatnot. And as soon as you walk in, hey man, what can I help you out with? And you're like, hold on, let me come in. I'm just browsing, and then but you feel like you had to give them something, a reason why you're there, And I know they've been trained that way, but in your head you're kind of like you try not to have any eye contact with anyone, and you try to move on, and just okay, or you act like you're on the telephone or something like that. So that's in the real world. Now for virtual, it's almost the same way. You need you're trying to comb through a lot of people who just basically say the same thing. Hey, click on me. Hey, get on this website. Hey, I got this. Hey, I got that. Come on, you need to act now because if this is the dream that you want, you had to come in a little bit differently. You had to say, hey, this is some information. You can soft sell it, but you don't have to be so like nonchalant. I don't care type of thing. But you have to say, for your information, you should educate yourself on what's going on right now. Okay, or there's some new information that's out here that you need to pay attention. Please tune in while I just go over this new information that's going to be great. Like if I say, hey, this is for the new stimulus check. Here's some ways to actually what they didn't tell you about, or just to calm you down to navigate how you can actually work yourself through with this new stimulus package coming through. Instead of just say, hey, just use a stimulus check to go ahead and just buy everything you need to do right now. Say, hey, I'm going to show you how you're able to keep your money and then make the best decision. So if you go in that route, in which it's a backwards self-selling, then people say, no, but what are you selling? I want to buy now. I want more information from you. And then you say, okay, but here's what you're going to do. And then you always ask for a sale, and if they're ready to buy, but don't pressure them in doing that. And that's how to make yourself stand out from the virtual world, because you had to hit them with a different, just a different, relaxful way, but not pressure them into they got to make a decision right now. And people will respect that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. Because again, there's so many people out here, and that's what they're doing. They're, they want people to pay attention to them, and everybody wants everybody to pay attention to you, but you can't pay attention to everyone, and again, with the, buy into this and, buy into that, it's, feeding on people's emotions and things of that nature. We know what selling is all about, and there's nothing wrong with that, but the impulse, that you have to do this right now. And as opposed to being the voice of reason, while everybody is saying, no, now, right now, it's like, no, just take your time, let's really think about this. So that was really, really good. I like that. I think that is one of the best things that I've heard so far, especially with what we've been experiencing, because people need to hear a voice of reason, especially during this time. So I thank you for sharing that. Well, gentlemen, we are at the end of our time, our show for today. So I just want to leave with some nuggets, that in the midst of finding our voice, when there's a lot of noise or a lot of things that are going on, we still have to make sure that we are assertive. We have to make sure that we are confident, and we have to think highly of ourselves, so that we can go forth and accomplish that which we need to accomplish, and not allow anyone to drown us out, if you will, or to disregard us or anything of that, like that. So just again, staying confident, staying diligent, staying vigilant, staying consistent, and just continuing to press through. So does anyone have any last words that they would like to share in regards to this topic of finding your voice in the midst of noise before we sign off?
First and foremost, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be engaged in such meaningful conversation and sharing of wonderful minds. The one thing that Mr. Hall said that I want to echo, and I'm only repeating it because it's worth repeating. regardless to where the chaos is, whether it's internal chaos for yourself, whether it's external chaos coming from one other person or a group of people, all anybody wants is that place of peace. Find the peace, and in that peace is where your voice will be heard. So while everyone else is being chaotic, while everything else is being chaotic, while your thoughts are being chaotic, find yourself in a place of peace. You will hear yourself. The folks that are being chaotic will all of a sudden come to a calm because you're speaking. They may not realize the first 5, 10, 15 words that you're speaking, but as long as what you have to say is something of great importance, and those who get to make the decision hear enough and become attentive, everyone else follows suit and stops the chaos to be quiet long enough to hear what's being said. And so, in all of the finding your voice in the chaos, I ask that you find the peace in the chaos and be that peace for other people. Therefore, your voice will be heard in that space.
All right. Thank you, Coach, for that inspiration. That was very inspirational and empowering, actually. So you all, I thank you so very much for joining another session of Success in Motion. And I look forward to you all joining the call or a video next week, Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. We will have another inspiring and encouraging topic that will definitely catapult you to the next level in your life. You all have a great evening, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.